Well, there was backlash on Wall Street after soaring inflation sent stocks on a wild ride. The market dropped more than 1,000 points before clawing its way back to close slightly higher.
President Biden's definitely feeling the heat. During a White House meeting, the president insulted a reporter who dared to ask him about the impact of inflation ahead of the midterms. CBN's Jenna Browder brings us the story from Washington.
Inflation's the worst it's been in 40 years, and consumers are feeling it with just about everything costing more, especially food. Meat, eggs, poultry, and fish all surging 12.5% from last year. The New York Times editorial board out with this headline: "The president's economy is failing the Big Mac test," meaning Americans can't buy as many hamburgers as they used to, a measure of how inflation is affecting the bottom line in household budgets. The Heritage Foundation's Joel Griffith on CBN's Faith Nation.
A lot of families, when they're going to the grocery store, if they can find the items they're looking for, they're finding, wow, we can't even afford to have a nice steak once a week. They're going ahead and buying ground chicken in substitute. And this is happening, though, in so many areas of consumers' lives.
Meanwhile, the president's critics say he isn't doing enough to fight inflation.
That Joe Biden knock-on-wood strategy is just not producing results. So what will they do for the next year is they will spin it, as we started to see yesterday, that it's not Joe Biden's fault, that it's the Republicans' fault, and you need to change your expectations because it's not really as bad as you really think it is.
A recent CBS News poll shows most Americans agree the president needs to do more. 65% say Biden isn't focusing enough on inflation, and 62% disapprove of his handling of the economy. Monday, the president showing frustration with a sarcastic and demeaning comment after a reporter asked him about inflation at a White House meeting on lowering prices.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid.
Biden later called the reporter to clear the air. The president contends that passing his stalled multi-trillion-dollar spending program will bring inflation down. And that New York Times editorial points to the administration's pandemic relief as one reason why it says things aren't worse. Not everyone agrees.
All of this government spending that we've seen over the past year and a half has actually made the situation worse. So many families, they love getting those checks, for instance, in their checking accounts or in their mailboxes from the government about a year ago. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to new spending.
And the Federal Reserve begins 2 days of meetings today. It's expected to begin raising interest rates in March in an effort to bring down inflation. Of course, higher rates could also cause more economic turmoil. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Well, brace yourself. Get ready for more inflation, more price increases. And the government doesn't seem to really get the message in terms of it's all about the federal spending. The more the federal government pumps money into the economy, and whether that's direct aid to people by sending them checks or these massive infrastructure spending bills, the net effect is always the same. There's inflation. You have more money pursuing goods. And if you have a supply chain problem at the same time, well, it just seems to multiply. And then what happens is wages go up, real estate prices go up as well. We're seeing all of that at the same time, and that is a massive reset on the economy. Whether it's entirely Biden's fault is open to debate. You look at all the spending that happened in 2020, 2019, you can get an idea. At what point, do we start running out of the world's currency? Is it at 30 trillion? Is it at 50 trillion? At what point do people say we're no longer going to fund the American economy by using U.S. dollars? That's an open question. That will be a massive problem, not a little one. And when you devalue your currency as much as we seem to be wanting to do, at the end of the day, you don't get to do that forever. You have to start curbing it. The problem is I don't see the political will on either party to do that. Both parties seems to buy into this new money market theory, but at some point that party has to end, and when it does, look out below.